Have you ever wondered why some people never seem to break, no matter how hard life hits them? Why they stay calm while everyone else crumbles? The truth is, it's not luck, it's control. Not control over the world, but over their own mind. See, most people don't fail because life is too cruel. They fail because their mind is too soft. They let emotions lead, fear decide, and opinions define who they are. But the strongest people, the ones who rise quietly and never lose their peace, have mastered something few ever do: the art of ruling their own thoughts. In this video, we're diving deep into the Machiavellian mind, 7 powerful lessons that will teach you how to become mentally untouchable. You'll learn how to control perception to command respect, detach from emotions so nothing can manipulate you, and expect betrayal without losing trust in yourself. You'll discover why calmness and silence are your greatest weapons, and how strategic absence makes your presence more powerful than ever before. And most importantly, you'll learn how to rule your mind, because once you do, no insult, betrayal, or chaos can ever shake your foundation again. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to stop reacting to life and start directing it, then consider subscribing. I share videos like this every day to help you strengthen your mindset, reclaim your focus, and reconnect with your inner power. So, take a deep breath and ask yourself, do you control your mind, or does the world control it for you? Because the answer to that question will define everything that follows. Let me ask you something. How many times have you felt like life was testing you, pushing you to the edge, and just when you thought you could handle it, you broke? Not because the world was too heavy, but because your mind gave in first. We've all been there, replaying failures in our heads, overthinking someone's opinion, letting fear dictate what we do or don't do. You start to feel trapped inside your own thoughts, as if you're living in a kingdom where you're no longer the ruler. Your emotions are. That's the quiet truth most people never face. We're not defeated by circumstances, we're defeated by our reactions to them. Life doesn't have to be kind to you. You have to become strong enough to rule yourself, no matter how unkind it gets. Mental strength isn't about pretending you don't feel pain. It's not about becoming numb, cold, or emotionless. It's about learning how to stay in command when everything inside you wants to panic, lash out, or give up. Most people believe strength means fighting harder, but real strength often looks like stillness, like the moment you choose silence instead of argument, or clarity instead of chaos. It's the discipline to hold your ground when fear screams for you to run. It's realizing that you can't always control what happens, but you can always control how your mind responds to it. That's where your real power lives, in the space between what happens and how you choose to interpret it. Think about how often you let someone else's words ruin your peace. A careless comment, a rejection, a failure, and suddenly, your whole day collapses. Why? Because you gave away your throne. You let the world rule your emotions instead of mastering them yourself. Machiavelli once said the mind is a throne, and if you don't rule it, someone else will. That means every time you react impulsively, every time you let anxiety drive your choices or anger control your words, you're surrendering your crown. But when you start taking it back, piece by piece, moment by moment, something incredible happens. The world starts to lose its power over you. You begin to realize that most of your suffering didn't come from what people did. It came from what you allowed your mind to repeat. You've carried insults longer than they were ever meant to last. You've replayed losses that were supposed to teach you, not define you. You've let fear of judgment stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. But here's the breakthrough. You can unlearn that. You can rebuild your mental strength not through force, but through awareness, through training your mind to serve you instead of sabotage you. It starts small. The next time something tries to shake you, pause before reacting. Observe your thoughts instead of obeying them. Ask yourself, is this emotion helping me, or is it ruling me? That question alone can change everything. Because the moment you stop being led by emotion and start leading with intention, you become untouchable. You stop chasing validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop crumbling under pressure. You don't become emotionless. You become self-possessed. And that's the essence of true mental strength. Self-rule. You stop being the soldier fighting endless internal wars and become the king or queen who governs them. You stop begging life to be easier and start training your mind to be stronger. You build calm where others collapse. You find clarity where others lose control. You stop surviving and start ruling. So ask yourself right now, honestly, who's really in charge of your mind? Because once you reclaim that throne, nothing in this world can ever break you again. It's strange, isn't it? We spend so much time trying to be understood, explaining ourselves, defending our intentions, proving we're good, kind, or capable. Yet the world rarely listens to what we mean. It listens to what it sees. You could have the purest motives, the sharpest skills, even the best heart, but if you appear uncertain, the world will treat you as uncertain. Reality, as unfair as it sounds, bends to perception. People don't judge you by your truth, they judge you by your presentation. And that's not manipulation. It's understanding how human psychology works. What people see, they believe. What they believe, they respond to. And if you don't learn to control that lens, someone else will define it for you. Think of your presence as your armor, not something you wear to hide, but something you design with intention. Every tone, every gesture, every pause communicates something about who you are and what you stand for. Calmness says, I am in control. Silence says, I do not need to prove myself. Composure says, you cannot shake me. These things speak louder than words ever could. The person who appears grounded commands attention without effort. The person who rushes to explain or defend appears unsure, even when they're right. That's why Machiavelli taught that power begins not in truth but in perception. The calm mind doesn't beg to be seen. It allows itself to be noticed. Imagine walking into a room full of noise, everyone talking, boasting, competing for attention. The loudest one always seems powerful, but look closer. It's the quiet observer, the one who speaks sparingly and listens deeply, who truly holds the room. People sense something different. Presence. Presence isn't volume, it's energy. It's the subtle balance of confidence and restraint. It's when others can't quite read you, and that uncertainty keeps them intrigued, cautious, even respectful. Power doesn't announce itself, it's felt. The mistake most people make is thinking honesty alone will protect them. They believe that if they just explain themselves, people will understand. But in truth, over-explaining drains authority. The more you justify, the more you hand over control of your narrative. You teach others that they have the right to judge your choices. Silence, on the other hand, shifts the dynamic completely. It says, I know who I am. You'll see it in time. That quiet confidence bends perception, and perception bends reality. So, instead of trying to convince the world of your worth, embody it. Stand taller, speak slower, choose calm over reaction, stillness over noise. Let your image reflect your discipline, not your insecurity. When you control your presence, you stop being at the mercy of opinion and start becoming the author of how you're perceived. And the moment you realize that perception isn't fake, it's simply strategy, you stop chasing validation and start commanding respect. Because in the end, power isn't about proving you're right. It's about being so centered, so quietly confident, that you don't need to prove anything at all. There's a quiet power in the person who can feel everything, yet choose when and how to respond. That's what true detachment looks like. It's not about shutting off your heart or pretending you don't care. It's about refusing to let your emotions become your master. Most people believe reacting fast makes them strong, that passion equals authenticity. But the truth is, emotion without control isn't strength, it's exposure. Every time you react instantly, you hand someone a map of your weaknesses. You show them where to push, where to pull, where you'll break. Detachment, on the other hand, gives you something the impulsive never have: time. Time to see clearly before you act. Time to choose strategy over reaction. Time to rule your emotions before they rule you. Think of emotion like weather. It's real, powerful, and sometimes unpredictable, but it's not permanent. Storms come, but they also pass. The problem is, most of us build our lives in the middle of the storm instead of waiting for the sky to clear. Detachment means standing under the same thunder, but knowing it won't last. You don't have to run every time it rains. You don't have to believe every thought that appears in the fog. You can stand still, watch the chaos move through you, and remain calm enough to see the truth behind it. That stillness, that pause between feeling and reacting, is where wisdom begins. We often confuse detachment with indifference, but they couldn't be more different. Indifference is numbness. It's turning away from life. Detachment is clarity. It's turning toward life with awareness. It's saying, I will feel this, but I will not drown in it. You can love without losing yourself. You can be angry without becoming destructive. You can be afraid without letting fear decide your future. The difference lies in ownership. The detached person doesn't suppress emotion. They study it. They treat it like data, information to guide, not control. Imagine a chess player. He doesn't move his pieces based on how he feels. He moves based on what's strategic. But that doesn't mean he feels nothing. He might feel tension, excitement, even fear. But none of it decides his move. His emotions inform him. They don't lead him. That's detachment in action. The same applies to life. Every situation, every confrontation, every disappointment is like a move on that board. If you let emotion play for you, you'll lose the game before you even understand the pattern. But if you step back, observe the board, breathe, wait, you start seeing moves no one else can see. And the truth is, this kind of emotional control isn't natural, it's trained. It's built through small moments of restraint. When you want to argue, but you choose silence. When you feel fear, but take the step anyway. When you're hurt, but decide not to retaliate. Every act of self-command builds the foundation of an unshakable mind. Over time, emotions stop dragging you. They start serving you. Anger becomes energy, fear becomes awareness, pain becomes perspective. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The wise don't delay their clarity, they choose it instantly. They see through their emotions while others are still trapped inside them. That's the quiet revolution of detachment. You stop living as a reaction to the world and start living as the director of your own story. You stop letting others pull the strings of your mood. You become calm, not because you don't feel, but because you finally understand. Emotion is meant to be experienced, not obeyed. So the next time something triggers you, don't rush to respond. Step back. Breathe. Watch the emotion like a wave rising inside you. It will crest, it will crash, and then it will fade. You'll still be there, standing, grounded, whole. Because no matter how loud the emotion feels in the moment, you are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. At some point, everyone learns the hardest truth about human nature, that loyalty is rarely permanent. People change, circumstances shift, and what once felt unbreakable can quietly dissolve. It's not always betrayal in the dramatic sense. Sometimes it's simply that someone's priorities moved on, or their truth no longer aligned with yours. And if you've ever been blindsided by that, you know the sting, the disbelief, the anger, the quiet ache of realizing someone you trusted is no longer standing where they once promised they'd be. But Machiavellian wisdom doesn't see this as cruelty. It sees it as reality. The world runs on shifting motives, not eternal vows. To expect otherwise is to live in constant disappointment. That doesn't mean you stop trusting altogether. It means you learn to trust systems instead of promises. You build structures that protect your peace, your time, your energy, not because you're cynical, but because you're prepared. You stop asking, "Who can I trust completely?" and start asking, "What can I put in place so that I don't need to?" It's a different kind of security, one rooted in foresight, not dependence. Just as a ship sails safely not because it trusts the sea, but because it's built strong enough to withstand it. You too must design your life to stay steady regardless of who stays or drifts away. When you learn to expect betrayal, not in bitterness but in awareness, something remarkable happens. Fear disappears. You stop walking on emotional eggshells, trying to keep everyone happy, or worrying who might turn on you. You understand that people act in their own interest, just as you do, and that doesn't make them evil. It makes them human. Instead of resenting that truth, you work with it. You anticipate change. You prepare for it. You keep your heart open, but your foundation solid. This shift transforms relationships. You can still love deeply, still give, still connect, but you no longer do it from a place of illusion. You stop expecting others to carry your sense of safety. You realize that trust is not a guarantee. It's a choice renewed moment by moment, as long as both sides honor it. When it breaks, you don't crumble, because your peace was never built on someone else's consistency. It was built on your own. There's a certain power in the one who stays calm when everyone else starts to unravel. You've probably seen it in an argument where one person keeps shouting, desperate to be heard, while the other simply watches, silent and unbothered. That silence says more than words ever could. It disarms, unsettles, and exposes, because calmness under pressure isn't just control. It's dominance. It signals that your emotions, your energy, your center cannot be hijacked by chaos. And to those still ruled by impulse, that kind of steadiness is terrifying. The world today rewards noise, constant opinions, instant reactions, endless validation seeking. Everyone wants to prove something, defend something, or be right about something. But here's the truth. The louder you are, the more you reveal. The more you explain, the more others can read you. The more you rush to speak, the more power you hand away. Silence, on the other hand, is a mirror. When you choose it intentionally, you force people to sit with their own thoughts, their own discomfort, their own assumptions. It makes them wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, and why you don't seem shaken. And that mystery, that composure, creates a gravitational pull that no amount of noise can replicate. There's a quiet elegance in this kind of restraint. Think of the ocean, calm on the surface, yet holding immense depth beneath. That's what real strength feels like. It doesn't need to prove itself, it simply is. Calmness doesn't mean you don't feel anger, fear, or excitement. It means you've trained yourself to let emotion move through you without letting it decide for you. It's a kind of emotional invisibility, where your presence speaks, your silence commands, and your composure becomes your shield. When you learn to use silence as a weapon, you stop being predictable. People can no longer provoke you into revealing your strategy. They reveal themselves instead. Their insecurities, their impatience, their desperation for reaction. And in that revelation, you gain clarity. You start to see the game behind every interaction. You begin to understand that real influence doesn't come from being the loudest in the room. It comes from being the one no one can quite figure out. So the next time chaos surrounds you, don't rush to speak. Breathe. Let silence do the work. Let your calmness unsettle the storm. Because in a world addicted to noise, the one who can stay still, truly still, becomes the most powerful presence of all. There's a certain magic in disappearing at the right time. In a world that's constantly screaming for attention, where everyone is always online, always available, always explaining, absence has become the rarest form of presence. People think being everywhere means being remembered, but the opposite is true. The more accessible you are, the less people value your time, your words, your energy. Familiarity breeds comfort, but too much comfort breeds forgetfulness. When you're always around, people stop noticing you. When you step away, they start wondering why. That's the paradox of influence. The less they see you, the more they feel your absence. Strategic withdrawal isn't rejection, it's refinement. It's choosing not to be consumed by the noise of constant visibility. When you learn to retreat, not out of insecurity but intention, you create space for your presence to breathe. Like music, power depends on rhythm, on the pauses between the notes. Without silence, sound loses meaning. Without distance, Presence loses weight. Absence gives others the chance to miss you, to measure the difference between when you're there and when you're not. That contrast creates curiosity, and curiosity sustains influence far longer than constant exposure ever could. Think of the moon. It doesn't compete with the sun. It simply appears when the world is ready to see it. Its absence makes its return more profound. The same is true in human dynamics. When you pull back, from conversations, from relationships, from the endless cycle of explaining yourself, you give people a chance to reflect on you. You move from being just another presence in their daily noise to becoming something they notice when gone. You stop being a person they see and start becoming a presence they feel. That's how absence transforms you from an individual into a symbol, someone remembered, even when unseen. This isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. Constant presence often comes from fear of being forgotten, replaced, or misunderstood. But when you know your worth, you don't need to chase attention. You let your impact echo in your absence. You understand that your energy is finite, and that every moment you're visible should mean something. People remember not what's constant, but what's felt, and presence without mystery rarely inspires respect. Withdrawal also serves another purpose. It restores you. When you step back, you reclaim your clarity, your boundaries, your creativity. You stop performing and start reflecting. The world may forget your face for a moment, but when you return, you come back sharper, centered, intentional, undeniable. Your silence becomes anticipation. Your return becomes significance. So learn to use your absence like an artist uses shadow, not to hide, but to shape meaning. Let people wonder where you've gone. Let your quiet moments speak louder than constant noise. Because influence isn't about being seen all the time. It's about being missed when you're gone. And when you understand that, your presence stops chasing attention and starts commanding reverence. Every battle you will ever face begins long before the world sees it. It begins in your own mind. That's where fear takes root, where doubt grows quietly, where stories of failure play on repeat until you start to believe them. And yet, that same mind holds the power to rewrite those stories entirely. When you rule your thoughts, you don't just survive the chaos around you, you shape it. Because the truth is, life doesn't respond to what happens to you. It responds to what you believe about what happens. Master your inner world, and the outer world begins to bend to that mastery. Most people live as if their minds are wild horses, pulled in every direction by emotion, impulse, and fear. They let circumstances dictate their mood, let other people's opinions shape their identity, let setbacks define their worth. But the moment you realize you are the rider, not the horse, everything changes. You stop being dragged by your thoughts and start directing them. You learn to pause between stimulus and response, that small, sacred space where freedom lives. And in that pause, you reclaim the one thing the world cannot take from you, your power to choose how you think. Self-mastery isn't about suppressing emotion or pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about transforming those forces into something useful. Pain becomes discipline, the motivation to refine yourself. Failure becomes data, feedback, not defeat. Chaos becomes information, something to analyze, not something to fear. Every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, can serve you when reason stands at the throne. That's the essence of ruling your mind, turning everything that once controlled you into something that now teaches you. Imagine your mind as a kingdom. When it's unruled, every voice, anger, fear, jealousy, doubt, tries to seize the throne. Each one demands attention, screaming louder than the last. But when you step in as the ruler, calm yet decisive, those voices begin to quiet. You don't silence them, you command them. You listen, but you don't obey. You decide which thoughts deserve power and which do not. That's how you keep the kingdom in order. That's how peace is built, not from avoiding war, but from knowing how to win the one within. The greatest leaders in history weren't those who conquered lands first. They conquered themselves. They understood that emotion clouds vision and that clarity creates control. When your reason governs emotion, betrayal can't break you, insults can't wound you, and failure can't define you. You remain steady because your sense of self no longer depends on the world behaving as you wish. So rule your mind, patiently and fiercely. Build it into a fortress where no fear enters unexamined and no thought rules without permission. When you do, the world becomes less of an enemy and more of a mirror, reflecting the strength you've built inside. Because once you've mastered your own mind, there's nothing left outside that can truly conquer you. In the end, everything you've ever searched for, peace, strength, clarity, has been waiting inside you all along. The world will always test you. People will change, chaos will come, and life will throw storms your way. But none of that has the power to destroy you once you learn to rule your own mind. Calmness becomes your shield. Silence becomes your weapon. Detachment becomes your wisdom. And from that stillness, you stop merely surviving life. You begin directing it. Remember this, you are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to become because of it. Every hardship is shaping you. Every disappointment is refining you. And every quiet act of self-control is turning you into someone unshakable. True strength isn't loud or forceful. It's the quiet confidence of knowing you can stand firm no matter what breaks around you. That's what it means to be mentally untouchable. If this message helped you feel seen or understood, consider subscribing. I create this space for us to grow together, to remind you that your mind is your greatest power, and you already have everything you need to master it. Before you go, I want to ask you something. What's one truth you've realized about your own mind today? Share it in the comments. Your insight might be the light someone else needs right now.